Welcome to Optimal Living Starts Here. I'm Versandra Brew, your host, and today in this episode, we have a very special guest. I am going to be speaking with Miss Cindina Stewart Scott of Southern Charm Counseling Services. Today, you will learn more about how she supports military wives and military veterans that are seeking to become the best version of themselves.
Optimal living, living optimally.
Welcome back. I am here with my special guest. Cindina Stewart Scott is a licensed professional counselor, and she is also a wonderful, wonderful addition to the counseling services that are available at Teen Challenge. Although her business, and it is called Southern Charm Counseling Services, it is a privately run organization. We happen to share a little bit of space in the lower level of Teen Challenge, just providing amazing counseling and services for those individuals who are in need of it. And I must say, I'm one of those people. And I like to put that out there for our audiences because people sometimes have these preconceived notions about who needs counseling. And I'm a firm believer that mental health is just as important as your physical health, your spiritual health. And so if you're not having some type of mental health services, then you're probably missing out on being the best version of yourself. Welcome, Cindina.
Thank you. I'm so honored to be here.
Good. When I met Cindina, I must say that she was so bubbly. The energy was just like up there on fire. And I said, oh my God, I've got to have you on my show.
Thank you.
And so I'm so happy you were able to make time out of this special day because we are still celebrating her story during this amazing month of March. And I know that you were at a women's empowerment event earlier today. And I'm sure you probably have some things you might want to share with our audience about that because that is one way that you stay connected to not only the needs of the community, but to what's happening in our community, the Columbus, Phoenix City area. And what were your thoughts about that event?
Oh my goodness, this event is amazing. So if you ever have the opportunity and the time to just dedicate your lunch, to just be surrounded by so many wonderful, wonderful spirited individuals. And just, it's very uplifting. It's an empowerment luncheon. And you definitely leave empowered.
Yes, that's a wonderful thing. And that's just another part of some of the things that I truly believe in is that you have to surround yourself with like-minded individuals that are on a similar path to yourself. And if they're on the path of personal development and empowerment, those are signs to me that you should be my friend.
Yes, I totally agree with you. I do.
Yes. Well, in this interview, we're talking about how, veterans and their family members, even people that are active duty in the military, they may find themselves experiencing some things going on in their mind and their body that might say, you might need to check in.
Yes.
So when that happens, let our audience know a little bit about how your business, Southern Charm Counseling Services, supports those individuals.
Well, thank you. Southern Charm counseling services was developed mainly because of my husband. My husband is a veteran. His branch was Marines, and so I am a military spouse. And one thing that I really want to encourage spouses and family members, you take on a lot. You really do take on a lot. And we're so used to serving everyone else. And thank goodness for our veterans. And thank you for all the services that you do. But I want to encourage you to service you. So one thing that I notice in my practice, if you suffer from post-traumatic stress, and what is that? That is if you experience flashbacks, if you are having night terrors, if you're just irritable, or things that remind you of that traumatic event you just don't want to go back to, or you just avoid individuals altogether, and sometimes, sadly enough, you avoid your loved ones. I want to encourage you to seek out therapy so you can learn those healthy coping skills, so you and your family could be a better person and family together.
Yes, yes, that's a very good point. And post-traumatic stress disorder is just one thing that might show up, because we know that, post-traumatic stress is not just for people in the military.
That is correct.
People that live in your neighborhood, especially one that may have gunshots ringing out from time to time. Just recently, we had that scenario in one of the parks in Columbus, Georgia. Yes. And there were shots that rang out, and there were children and families that were out there enjoying the beautiful outdoor experience. And those individuals would be very likely to experience something like post-traumatic stress disorder after that particular occurrence. And we all know that there are individuals that may have witnessed a loved one being shot or hurt and coming home, if they came home, looking like they were all broke down because they were not only traumatized mentally and emotionally, but physically. And just seeing something like that can cause them to have the symptoms of post-traumatic stress disorder. So if you are watching this right now, we do invite you to even pick up your phone and call some people and have them to tune in to Beam TV, because we're going to share some things that I believe will benefit you if you are just on the line, on the verge of making a decision about getting some help. So you mentioned that isolation thing. If you're finding that you're just hanging out by yourself, you don't want to be bothered with other people, let our audience know a little bit more about how that actually impacts a person when they are just closing themselves off from others.
Well, one thing that I will say is impacting your health, because you are the main priority, but you're also impacting the loved ones around you that want to see you get better, but don't know how to make you better. Sometimes when you isolate yourself, it's so easy to become depressed. And with depression, that appears, and it may not present in all ways, but sometimes you don't want to shower. Sometimes you don't want to clean up. Sometimes you don't want to eat. And sometimes you overeat. And sometimes you just don't have any motivation at all.
Yes, yes. I'm so glad you mentioned those things. And one thing that jumped out at me as you were speaking was even your dental hygiene. Because if you're not showering, you're likely not brushing your teeth as well. And one thing that I've learned over the years is that, it takes about 24 hours for bacteria to just wreak havoc in your mouth. And when you have that going on inside of your mouth, then the bacteria is going down into your stomach, And now you are having a bigger issue because that can turn into a real serious challenge physically. So I am so happy that you are sharing this with our audience. And nobody's trying to tell you, I don't want to be around you because you smelling kind of funky.
Right.
That's not the point.
No.
That's not the point. The point is hygiene.
It's important.
It is important.
And it's also important due to self-esteem.
Yes.
You know, we dress a certain way when we
Yes.
feel good, you know, about ourselves. So notice those things about you. Notice when you do start to, when you are invited to events and you start to dismiss those events. Notice those phone calls when you start to see the phone ringing and not answer the phone calls. These are individuals that really love you and want to support you through this journey.
Yes, yes. This is so good. And I'm sure that our audience is taking a lot away from this. And you have your pens and your paper and you're taking notes. Well, we are living in a world right now post-pandemic.
Yes.
Where many people were forced to be isolated due to the pandemic.
Yes.
We were told, hey, 6 feet apart. We were told if you're elderly, you need to keep yourself separate from those type of people. And I know for a fact that there are many elderly individuals that have been disconnected from their families. And, you know, after a while, when you've done it for a period of time, you begin to think it's normal.
Oh, yes.
This is just how we're doing it right now. This is how the world is. But I want to suggest that you consider that is not the norm. It is not the norm for you to be without your loved ones hugging you and holding your hand and rubbing you on your back and helping to soothe you. It is not normal. And so now that we are post-pandemic, we have got to get back into the groove of things because our elderly are experiencing this thing called, you know, what are they calling it now? Oh my God, loneliness. That's what they're saying in psychology. You know, it's like, okay, loneliness is at an epidemic proportion right now due to this whole pandemic situation. And so loneliness, when I think of it, I've said it on a couple of my shows before, I put loneliness and touch deprivation in the same hand, is if you will, because when you are lonely, you're not being touched. When you're not being touched, you are affecting the effects of that. You know, isolation, depression, violent behavior, all those things can cause one to really go down this dark rabbit hole. So tell our audience what you know as a licensed professional counselor, because I know what I know from a coaching standpoint and from a massage therapist standpoint, but you are a licensed professional counselor. What are your thoughts regarding touch deprivation or this whole loneliness thing that they're calling it now?
You know, again, I truly, I commend you for even touching on that topic. You know, we are in a society that even our children, we didn't talk about that, are being impacted due to COVID and social media. But that's a whole nother topic that I'm not going to talk about today. But one thing we have to understand is it's important to socialize. That is a wonderful component of us. That's the beautiful part about us being human beings. You know, we need to be able to feel the energy from each other and grow with each other. I've learned so much, and we talked a little bit briefly even about the luncheon that I just attended. You learn so much, and you are surrounded by so many different individuals with all different walks of life. That's what we need to grow. That's how we grow. So it is important to be surrounded by individuals, and I hugged so many people at that event.
Yes.
And it is so important because of the pandemic, we're now coming out and we are able to embrace each other. And there's something special about that hug and that touch.
Yes, yes,
Give me
yes.
your touching.
That's right.
That's right.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I am so happy that you are also an advocate of touch because really our society is kind of anti-touch in the United States. You know, you can go to France, you can go to other countries where people walk hand in hand, walking down the street. You know, they greet you and they're kissing you on one cheek and kiss you on the other cheek. Before anything else happens in an exchange, they make that touch occur. And that is one of the things that I noticed even years back. I think it's probably been about, this was 2004 when I began my very first no touch rules, petition to end that in schools.
Yes.
Because I recognized that there were schools that were telling children you had to, before the pandemic, 6 feet apart, or you had to be at arm's length apart when you're walking down the hallway because some adults decided that it was a bad thing for children to touch one another. And as I thought about that, and I put this petition out, and hundreds of people from all around the United States and Canada signed that petition because they recognized, there was an individual that spoke with me recently about having a child. Let's see, I don't know if I was with you that day, but someone had a child that had that was on the spectrum. And they were concerned about the fact that their child feels comfort when they grab onto someone's leg. I think the child was, like about 8 years old. When they grab onto someone's leg, that makes them feel comfort and safe.
Yes.
Whereas in the world today, that's like, oh no, you can't do that.
Yes.
We can't touch in the workplace. We can't touch, and I know the reasons now.
Yes.
But sometimes our hyper fear, hyper concerns that we have can really do us damage. So I want to go a little bit more into your story because I know that you have not been a licensed counselor for all of your career.
Oh, no.
And you told me a little bit about your experience prior to making that shift.
Yes.
Let our audience know a little bit because, we're here in the Columbus, Phoenix City area, and I know people know you.
Yeah.
They see your face and they're like, oh, I know Cindina. I know Cindina. They might know you from your past.
Yes.
So maybe share with our audience a little bit more about your story.
The journey that took. All right.
Yes.
Well, one thing that I will say, I'm just humbled. I'm humbled to just be here, to be able to speak in front of you today. My journey wasn't easy. I am one that you must believe and have faith. I have about over 17 years of experience with mental health, but in that, it was different levels of mental health that I dealt with in different avenues. So I worked with DHR, and that's on the Alabama side, and with DFACS on the Georgia side. So I did that for 10 whole years. And it was a very rewarding experience. It was rewarding to be able to help so many individuals in different facets of life. To be able to have someone at their lowest point be able to accomplish things that they didn't know that they could accomplish. And after that, I transitioned to the hospital. And in that setting, again, was also rewarding just to see individuals who suffer from mental illness get help and get stabilized. And that's another thing. Don't be ashamed to get help.
Yes.
I think we are here in this world. We have so many stigmas on mental health, and we need to acknowledge it and get the help that is offered to you. So after that, I transitioned. My next big role was being a director with Salvation Army. Oh my goodness. Having the opportunity to help with the homeless population was amazing. Can I say that again? It was amazing. You mentioned working for AmeriCorps, yes, right? And it was such a serving position that I did not take for granted, because that's also a need. And with a lot of mental health individuals working with homeless, they do suffer. Some do suffer from mental health. So just having that perspective and navigating, using my degree to help those who are in need, that was wonderful. To venture off on my own, to do that leap, like I mentioned earlier, you got to believe in yourself. And to start the Southern Charm Counseling Services, it was it's such an eye-opening and rewarding experience for me. And I love every one of my clients. And the reason why I love them so much is because we are in this together. Yes. We are in this journey together. One thing that my clients will let you know, when you get me on your team, it's a team to be reckoned with. Yes. So I really adore each and every one that allows me into their space and time.
Yes, yes. Mm-hmm. And I think that's what really made the connection with you and I, because I did not understand the homeless community before being homeless myself.
Got it.
You know, I saw people maybe, asking for money or those type of things. And I tell the story often that I used to turn my nose up and, I'd be like, wait a minute, you look able-bodied. Yeah. I work hard for mine. I started making $3.35 an hour, and I had to work my way up, to become the professional that I am today. And back in those days, my mindset was not one that had a lot of empathy.
Got it.
And empathy is very important for us as human beings, being able to put ourselves in someone else's shoes. So that is not to say that I did not grow up in poverty. Gotcha. Because I grew up in poverty on the east side of Detroit in the projects. And mental illness is how I started my life. I was born in a mental institution.
Got it.
So I'm very aware of mental illness, but the connection between that and homelessness just did not come to me.
Yeah.
But when I got to a point where I lost myself, I didn't even know who I was. The picture in the mirror, the reflection didn't even look like me. And when I got to that point, it was like, okay, something has to happen here. I became suicidal. Yeah. I'm ready to drive off the bridge. And being in a homeless shelter, and it didn't take long because what I saw was myself.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes.
Every person that I ran into, I saw myself. I saw women that had 4 or 5 children, and they were trying to work a job, and they weren't homeless because they didn't work every day.
Right.
They were homeless because 4 children in childcare, making costly. A very little bit amount of money, just minimum wage or even higher. My God. Childcare, when I was raising my 2 brothers, was like $250 a week. That's $1,000 a month. And so when you look at that, then you can see the disparities in how a person could end up in a homeless shelter, even though they work every day.
Yes.
I was an entrepreneur at the time. I had a business, but I was still homeless.
Yes.
I kept my business because it was my dream and the only thing that I felt was really keeping me alive at the time. I had something to live for.
Good point.
And so I held on to that for dear life.
That was your purpose.
Because this is my purpose. And I'm like, I must do this. But in the midst of me living my purpose, I did not love myself enough to find balance there. So I gave. I'm telling you the truth. It was to a point where I would be like, okay, on the 4th week of the month, all services are free. We want all seniors to come in. We want you. This was where my heart was, but it didn't make sense economically for me to be an entrepreneur giving away everything.
Yes.
So there we have just a simple story of how maybe one of our listeners are, or viewers, you're maybe wondering, well, how can I possibly say this or ask for help if this is what's happening? It doesn't matter what's happening. We are all one.
Yes.
And we have feelings and emotions and experiences that we share with each other. And when we try to keep it inside and hold it to ourselves because of our fear of what other people will think, then you're not doing yourself any good.
That's true.
You're just really dealing with the situation by yourself. Once I got in that shelter and I started helping those ladies, watching their kids, changing their diapers, feeding them and things like that, because I was the only single woman there, I believe, I found a new purpose.
Yes, you do.
And it really changed my life. And so when I went to AmeriCorps to serve that year, it was based around that whole poverty alleviation. I wanted to go deep and figure out, what is this thing? Well, I mean, how do people get here? What are the solutions? The solutions are what's important to me. And service is a huge solution to any problem, because when you serve others, you recognize the connection you have with them. You also recognize that your problems sometimes are
minimal.
Tiny
yes. Yes.
And so this is also why I do this show. This is a way to give back, because not everyone is in a position or have made the decision to reach out for help. And so if you are that person and you don't feel that you are ready to pick up the phone or go to a website and dial and reach out to one of us for assistance, maybe there's something that's said in this interview that's beneficial that can assist you as you move forward and recognize that you are valuable.
Yes.
And that when you invest in you, you invest in your well-being, your family's well-being, you invest in your life.
Yes.
Oh my God, I love this. Now, we are preparing to kind of wind this down, and I know we're probably going to have people commenting and stuff on the website, on the YouTube, and asking questions. I want you to give a little bit more information about how you do your practice at Teen Challenge. What does that look like for a person when they come in to visit you?
Well, one thing that I want you to know, I have created an environment, a non-judgmental environment. So whatever you say to me, it stays in there. Other than there are 2 exceptions. But after those 2 exceptions are over, I want you to be able to feel free. And like I stated earlier, we're a team. And I want you to know that. I want you to know that whatever you say in this room stays in this room. Yeah. I won't be leaving the room saying, you know what she told me, or you know what he told me. It stays in the room. And not only that, I want you to know when you leave the room, you're going to leave the room with some type of coping skill to deal with whatever that's presented to me. So again, we're a team at this. You're not alone, and you matter.
Yes, I love that. And that's so important because so many of us, the reason why they might choose to not share is because they've been not treated right by a friend or a family member. Yeah. You know, someone that you trusted and you shared certain things that were important to you. And then you found out later that it became a part of the gossip of the neighborhood, you know.
Right.
And we want you to know that working with a professional is totally different from working with that so-called friend in your neighborhood that really doesn't have the expertise to support you. That's why when you reach out to Cindina, you will not only feel better when you leave, but you will have some skills and you don't have to worry about that thing. I know sometimes people ask me, you know, I don't ever see you with your clients and talking about your clients, and they think I'm just in this world by myself, I think. And I'm like, well, there's a reason for that. You know, unless my client gives me specific permission to talk about a thing, you will never hear about something that's happening. And I always tell my story because that is something that I have given myself permission to share with the world for the purpose of growth and development of us all. I believe that stories are very beneficial. So we are closing out, but I want our viewers to be able to connect with you. So please give them your website and how you prefer them to reach out to you.
I would love for you to visit my website. It's www.southerncharmcounseling.com. Come on that website. You'll be able to make an appointment on that website. You'll be able to schedule a consultation on that website and just get to know a little bit more about me.
Yes, yes. And I also invite you to visit her on Psychology Today.
That's right.
I like to share that resource because when you go there, you will find all kinds of really great articles and information, just resources, besides working with a dynamic local individual. This is someone that you can reach out to. You can visit her office, and she's available virtually. So if you decide that you are just not quite ready to walk into a physical office, then you can definitely have a virtual session with her as well. And it just makes me so happy to be able to let more people know about what you're doing, Cindina, and your wonderful practice, Southern Charm. Tell me, how did you come up with that name?
Well, the South. I think individuals, I'm from Midwest, so I just remember stepping on campus. I went to school at Tuskegee, and I just remember stepping on campus and everyone was saying, "How you doing?" I literally thought you guys really wanted to know how I was doing. So as they were walking past and I'm telling them how I was doing, I said, I believe that is Southern Charm. You got the individuals here, you have a gift of Southern hospitality. And that's one thing that I will say that I have adapted, the Southern hospitality that I received when I first got here in Alabama.
Yes, yes. And I want to just, I guess, make a disclaimer here because I've said the name Teen Challenge multiple times. I want you guys to know that we are not affiliated with Teen Challenge. We just occupy space in the building. And our address is 15 West 10th Street, located in Columbus, Georgia, right in Uptown. I love it. And when you talk about that environment that is created, it's really such a special environment that is created in each of our office spaces. But what I do want you to know is that although we are not affiliated, we recognize the importance of all of the work that we all do.
Yes, we do a lot.
In order to support your well-being, your mental health, even if you're dealing with addictions, whatever the situation is, just know that there is a wealth of resources and individuals from different walks of life, different backgrounds, so you don't have to be stuck in a cookie cutter type setting where your counselor, looks like this or that. You get a chance to choose. And what this interview does is helps you to get to know Miss Cindina a lot better, so that you can make the best choice for you. And if you are in the military, she knows your story. Yes. She knows all about the challenges you might be facing as a military wife, as a veteran or military woman. She can understand you and basically support you on your journey to health and wellness. This has been another episode of Optimal Living Starts Here. I am Versandra Kennybrew, your host, and my very special guest,
Cindina Stewart Scott.
Yes, we have had a blast sharing information with you about how you can live a more healthy, happy life, mind, body, and spirit.